So for Vietnam to change from being like a low-cost, cheap bulk producer, I think it's very important for Vietnam that companies in Vietnam start to think more about delivering a good quality product, thinking more on how to organize your processes that you can surprise consumers with your product, and not just thinking of trying to be the cheapest. You see it in many sectors which Vietnam have been quite successful in, like in Pangasius, the panga, cha basa, the fish. The reputation which it has developed in the international market is for a very cheap product. Well, actually, it's quite a fantastic product. It's easy to cook, quite a neutral flavor. But somehow Vietnam has positioned its product as a commodity. And Vietnam really needs to get out of this, of just producing commodities, because if you cannot distinguish yourself with your product, people are only going to look at your price, and then automatically there's somebody who will offer it a bit cheaper, and then you will be forced to go down. So it's very, very important for Vietnam to get out of this commodity spiral. For the coming 5 years, I think it's very important that Vietnamese agriculture sector will produce more sustainable and in a more productive way, with a guaranteed quality, and especially food safety, which is a big concern for the Vietnamese consumer. I think there's really a big range of products where both in the domestic market and in the international market, Vietnamese products will have a chance to be successful. For example, the Lam Nong province, the Lat area could really develop into the main urban supply area of fresh produce in Asia. The Lat can develop, if managed well, the Lat can develop a reputation that it becomes famous, not only in Vietnam but in the whole of Asia. But to achieve that, a lot of different actors in the chain should work together. So on the one hand, it should be the government who should be very active on enforcing pesticide legislation. Vietnam has a very good laws on pesticides, but it's not being enforced. And that's a very important role for the government, that in Lam Nong province the pesticide legislation should be enforced. And at the same time, maybe there should be some policies that not everybody can just be an exporter. You need to reach certain quality standards before you're allowed to export, otherwise you can damage the reputation of the Lat. So a lot of different parties should work together to create a reputation for the Lat, which is not only good for Vietnam but also with the neighboring countries. What is also very important in the coming 5 years is that if you look in Europe, a lot of trade in agriculture products is happening with the neighbors. But currently in Southeast Asia, the agriculture trade between Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia is relatively small. So trade barriers, the import taxes are being lowered, but the trade barriers are not removed. So a lot of Vietnamese products, for example, if I look at fruits, the only products that Thailand allows in from Vietnam is dragon fruit. And sweet potato. So all the other fantastic Vietnamese fruits, they cannot enter Thailand because of some phytosanitary rules. At the same time, Thailand can export anything to Vietnam. So that's why it's not strange that out of Thailand the export of fruits to Vietnam is about $200 million, and from Vietnam to Thailand is only $10 million. And people think that, okay, if we lower import taxes, trade will automatically happen, but this is not the case, because certain trade barriers are not being removed. So I think it's very important for the ASEAN countries is that they work very hard to remove certain trade barriers, which is not import taxes alone, it is especially being allowed to access certain markets and to agree on certain phytosanitary regulations. And that can help a lot to develop the economies within ASEAN without banning too much of exports to the Western markets like Europe and the US. It's much better to develop trade with your neighbors than very far away. give you some example. I mean, Vietnam is very big in cashew nuts. Yeah, because actually Vietnam is one of the biggest exporter in cashew nuts in the world. But if you come to the international market as a consumer, you don't know that this cashew nut is coming from Vietnam. Very few people know that actually also the nicest cashew nuts are Vietnamese. I mean, you have cashew nuts from India, from Africa, but among cashew nut traders and specialists, the Vietnamese cashew nuts has a reputation of being a very good cashew nut. But consumers in the European and the Western markets or places where they consume the cashew nuts, they don't know that. Yeah. So Vietnamese are exporting, and then somebody's importing, and then somebody's doing the packaging, and they create their brand. And they can use a cashew nut from India or they can use a cashew nut from Vietnam. But the person who's producing the cashew nuts here in Vietnam, they're not developing their own reputation for their own products in those markets. And even in the domestic markets, if I go to Holland, I can have a very nice quality cashew nut coming all the way from Vietnam. But if I want to buy a good quality cashew nut in the Vietnamese market, it's hardly there. I'm now buying cashew nuts from a very small local brand, which actually a social enterprise. It's called Better Day Cashew Nuts, and they're one of the few where you have very good taste products. It seems like the cashew nut exporters kind of selling lower quality cashew nuts in the local market and sending their best cashew nuts to the international market. So I think it's very important for Vietnamese companies that take cashew nut as an example. Vietnam is very strong in cashew nuts. Now make sure that this very nice quality cashew nuts are also available to the Vietnamese market. And when you're selling your cashew nuts in the international market, don't rely on all those people in between, but be a bit entrepreneurial and start to move up in the chain and start to develop your own brand and making clear that people know that this is a very good quality cashew nut out of Vietnam and be proud of it. Yeah? And not just selling a bulk cashew nut and that's it.